It's scary.
Yeah.
Right? Like for the average consumer, it's very, very scary because again, as you get older, right? And one of the things you start to think about more and more is your health, right? And I want to make sure not only that my health care is taken care of, but that I can afford it. So when they find a plan that they feel comfortable in and they really like, and then they find out that it's going away, that is a very worrisome or troublesome scenario for them.
It's kind of starting back at square one, honestly.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Medicare Made Simple podcast with MediConnect. I'm Lance O'Brien, the CEO, and today we are joined by special guest, Alexie Auth, who is the Chief Marketing Officer with Andocia, who helps us with a lot of the content that we create. A lot of our team is very busy this time of year.
Yes.
And she was gracious enough to step in for us today. So
happy
welcome
to be here.
The podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So you've been working with us now for about 18 months or so. Tell us a little bit about what the journey's been like and what it's like working with MediConnect before we jump into today's topic.
Truthfully, I feel like I relate to a lot of the people that we work with because when I first started working with MediConnect, I had no clue what you guys were doing and how to market it per se. And now I've just been able over the last year and a half and been able to see the impact that you've truly had on people's lives. I think you guys having 1,300 5-star Google reviews is a testament within itself, but actually reading those reviews and talking to real customers, I've just been able to see the impact that everyone on your team has been able to have with people. So it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of terms. It's very confusing.
Yes.
You know, things are always in flux. So finding a way to actually get that information out in a way that's simple for people to understand is very challenging, but very needed.
Yes. And I think that's what we constantly battle with of how do we explain things that are complicated, but in a simple way so that people can understand it and be confident in their coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a huge believer in people who've watched some of the podcasts that I've done before have heard me say this, but I believe someone is truly an expert in something not when they speak intelligently about something. I believe somebody's an expert when they can take something incredibly complicated and make it incredibly simple. And that's really the goal of what we try to do.
Yes, I love it. Well, today's a special day. I feel like we should highlight that.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the start of AEP,
yes.
Which for anyone that has recently turned 65 or maybe haven't heard this term before, can you explain what is AEP?
Yeah, so going back to what we said, there's a lot of different acronyms and stuff, right? Yes. So AEP stands for the Annual Enrollment Period. It's one of the 5 enrollment periods actually with Medicare. Exactly.
More
it's
complication.
Just kind of a head shaker, complicated, confusing. We're not going to get into all the other ones today, but the AEP again stands for the Annual Enrollment Period. Simplest way to understand it, it's the time period every year where everyone who has any part of Medicare can actually review their coverage. Yes. It runs from October 15th through December 7th. And the changes that are made during that time go into effect January 1st. So this is really, for people who've had group coverage all their life, this is their enrollment period of time, the big one where they can make that decision.
Yes. And we see a lot of trends each AEP. I think we could start by, we've been seeing some SARs. Can we talk through what are big trends that we're seeing this AEP specifically?
Yeah. So every year, as you mentioned, there are trends, right? And we went through a time where Medicare was really, I would say, on a rocket climb, if you will, where everything was trending in an awesome direction. Right. And now we're going through a little bit of a reset. And the first part of that reset is a SAR. Mm-hmm. What is a SAR or SARs, right? Stands for Service Area Reduction. And the truth of the matter is every year there are SARs.
Okay.
Plans are reduced or redacted from the counties that they were in. But most of the time it's negligible. Very small amounts. Yes, the people that are impacted, it's really difficult, but it's not monumental. This year, it's
a little different.
Yes, nationally, regionally with the carriers, literally there are over 200,000 people in our state that are losing their coverage. The plan that they have today, if they don't do something, will no longer be available to them come January 1st.
Which is just detrimental.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Right? Like for the average consumer, it's very, very scary because again, as you get older, right? And one of the things you start to think about more and more is your health, right? And I want to make sure not only that my health care is taken care of, but that I can afford it. So when they find a plan that they feel comfortable in and they really like, and then they find out that it's going away, that is a very worrisome or troublesome scenario for them.
It's kind of starting back at square one, honestly.
It is. It is. And I actually talked to somebody this week who had been my client for years. I no longer do that part of the job anymore. But she was like, I feel like we finally found a plan that we absolutely love. And they've been in the plan for a couple of years. And that is one of the plans that is being redacted this year.
So what is the reason this year specifically that it is such a large impact compared to past years?
That's a great question, right? So there's multiple factors. It usually always comes down ultimately to cost, right? Like the plans are losing money. And there's so many different plans that, it gets super complicated because you got actuarials moving their abacuses.
Keep it simple for me in the audience.
Yes. Bottom line is certain plans in certain counties are losing money.
Okay.
Some of it has to do with the Inflation Reduction Act, right? And the impact of prescriptions and things of that nature, right? So that's one of the reasons that we're seeing it. A secondary reason that it's going on right now is because beyond the prescriptions, all of these plans rely on reimbursement from the government. And usually they're looking at a certain number to come from the government on a yearly basis to keep the plans at what they consider their level marker, right? Well, in 2023 and 2024, those reimbursements were almost half of what they were expecting or hoping for.
Okay.
So you've got the demand on the prescriptions going up. You've got the reimbursement going down.
Yep.
And then the trifecta, if you will, is you've got utilization of benefits going up. So you've basically got this convergence where there's a greater demand on the insurance company and they're losing their plan. And I think it's a great question because we fielded, because you can start talking about all this October 1st. We've fielded literally thousands of phone calls already in just the first couple weeks of this enrollment period. And let's just say not every one of them has been pleasant.
Understandable.
Yes. A lot of angry people. Why are they doing this? How can they do this? Right. And I think the one thing to remember is listen, if they have people in a plan and they're happy, they're not trying to upset the apple cart.
Yes.
They're not trying to mess things up for people. There are very real reasons behind why they are making decisions at this magnitude.
And I think you hit on the combination of those different factors is why this is occurring.
Yeah, and I think if it was one of those factors, we wouldn't see service area reductions
as heavily this year.
We'd actually see slight changes in benefit packages.
Okay.
Right. But because there's three things converging all at once, it's kind of like a tsunami, if you will, that is just flooding the market and making it so they have to make these drastic changes.
And before we get into a little bit the Inflation Reduction Act, can you talk about where the SARs are occurring this year or like where they're happening especially?
I think a better question is where are they not, right? Like
Fair.
It's honestly across the country, but here locally, we are seeing a lot of it in Western PA.
Okay.
We're seeing a lot of service area reduction in the state of New York, Delaware, right? And these are areas we obviously work in almost half the country,
yes,
right? But in that footprint of where we are, the major areas where we're seeing it is Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware, and West Virginia. So
okay. So you said some of the impact came from the Inflation Reduction Act. Can you talk about that act specifically and why that has caused changes this year?
Yeah. So the one thing that I'm sure there's more than one thing, but one of the things that the insurance companies don't have control over is legislation, right? Legislation stands above everything else.
Exactly.
So if they decide in Washington, this is what they're going to do, it trickles down and they have to do it. Now, in the Inflation Reduction Act that was signed in 2021, 2022, there was some actually very good things in that bill. Right? Like we're going to cap insulin for insulin dependent people at $35.
Yes.
I'll vote for that. Right? Like it's a pretty easy one. The fact that we're going to eliminate the donut hole. where people who have very expensive medications, once they reach a certain retail cost, they're going to actually drop into a time of the year where what they normally pay is going to be escalated until the end of the year. Well, I can also vote for people not having to spend $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year just on their prescriptions.
Yes.
Right. Because that's where, Alexie, it for people, it starts to become, do I buy my necessities or do I take care of my health?
Yeah.
Right. So that was definitely a positive thing to eliminate that. So, and then something we're going to talk about in a minute, but being able to start negotiating Part D drugs.
Yes.
And I know we only have so much time in one podcast, and I want to unpack as simply as I can some things, but so people understand, like with Medicare Part A and B, they've always been able to negotiate certain prices.
Okay.
Right. So when they're negotiating those prices, they're basically saying if the doctor wants to charge $2,600 for an MRI, which is what a MRI would cost.
Yeah.
Medicare is going to come to that office and say, no.
Yeah.
That's nuts. We're not going to allow you to do that. So they'll come up with a Medicare approved cost.
Okay.
Or a negotiated price, right? And then what the insurer has to do is they can only charge that amount.
Yes.
And then however the copays of the plan and stuff kick in, that's how the final price to the consumer is figured out.
Depending on the plan.
Yes.
Yes.
So they were able to do that with Part A. They were able to do that with Part B for years.
Yes.
That negotiation. They haven't been able to do that with Part D. So these pharmaceutical companies are just basically charging whatever they want to charge for retail costs. So Medicare was like, and in the Inflation Reduction Act was like, this is nuts. We're paying way too much money on prescriptions. So they started the process of negotiating Part D drugs.
Which is great for the consumer. This is a huge win, especially for the drugs that they were able to start with. Which, can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, huge win. And they started small in the grand scheme of things. Like in 2026, there's only 10 drugs that they were able to start the negotiation on. And it was the 10 most expensive drugs. And I know we are going to talk about that in a minute. So they started that process there, which again, bringing down the retail cost of those things is really, really great.
Yes.
But you take the three things that I just talked about, right? The $35 insulin, the elimination of the donut hole, and the negotiation of drugs. Just because the consumer doesn't have to pay for that anymore.
Someone's got to pay for it.
Someone's got to pay for it. It's not just going to, I mean, sometimes I think how we do our budget here in our country is we just print more money or eliminate things.
Yep.
But in real life, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Right. So like somebody has to pay for it. And in this case, that somebody, a lot of the burden is falling on the individual insurance carrier.
Yes.
Right. So they're just taking all this additional cost. And so what we're going to see is they're starting to pass some of that additional cost on to the consumer. So it's almost robbing Peter to pay Paul, but in the end, the cost is spread over more people, which makes it more palatable.
Okay.
In general.
Okay.
Okay.
So for people that are on those 10 drugs, what is this going to look like for them start 2026?
Yeah. So for 2026, I'm not going to say the whole list now, but some of the big ones that are on that list that I know just from working with people that are going to be big impacts are going to be Eliquis, Xarelto, both blood thinners for people generally that have atrial fibrillation. Then we've got Jardiance and Januvia for people with diabetes. They're not insulins, they're pills. Okay. And pills for diabetes, especially for type 2 diabetics, are more expensive in nature. Then we've got Farxiga and Entresto, which are heart failure type medications. Those are the 6 most common from that list that are the big ones. Massive impact. So they went to the negotiating table on this. Just to give you an idea.
Yeah.
Xarelto and Eliquis were the 2 most expensive prescriptions for Medicare last year. Cost Medicare $23 billion.
Woo!
That's not an M. That's a B.
It's a B, yeah.
$23 billion. The average retail price last year that was being charged to a consumer, if they didn't have insurance for the Eliquis and the Xarelto, was around $600. So if they didn't have insurance, they had to go in and pay for it $600.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that negotiated price for 2026 is down to $250, give or take a few dollars. Think about that. I mean, that's more than half
It's a
of
drastic
that
change.
negotiated price. Now, again, to the consumer or the individual that's watching this podcast, they still don't know what that means in real dollars to them.
Yes.
But it does mean significant savings to them in real dollars.
Okay.
So, illustration. Say I have a plan where the deductible's $615, right? And my Eliquis this year was $600. First month I go in there to pick it up, I'm going to spend $600. That's what it's going to cost me to pick up that medication for 1 month, right? Then when I go in the next month, if I have to pay 25% of the retail cost, 25% of 600 is $150. I would have to then pay $150 a month until I reached my max of the year, which is $2,000.
Okay.
Fast forward to next year, right? Somebody has a deductible of $600, but it's now got a retail price of $250. First month they pay $250 instead of $600. Then they pay $250.
Yeah.
Then they pay $100 because the deductible is now satisfied.
Okay.
And then they're now paying 25% of $250, which is $60 a month, as opposed to $150. I mean, we're literally talking for that one drug for an individual, they're probably going to save about $800 to $1,000 over the course of the year.
Wow.
Which, again, if you're living on a fixed income, major money.
Yeah.
Major money. So like the first thing I would say to people that are watching today is if you're taking any of those drugs, you need to review your plan this year.
Yes.
Like you definitely need to look at how you're going to handle your prescriptions going into the new year.
And I know we're focused specifically on this AEP period and going into 2026, but are we going to continue to see these types of changes over the coming years?
Well, yes, right. What they're going to look like. Because again, you think about back to 5 or 6 months ago, the big rage was the big, beautiful bill, right? And everybody thinks what's happening right now is as a result of the big, beautiful bill. What's happening now has nothing to do with the big, beautiful bill. It actually has to do with a bill that was passed 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. So what does that tell you?
Delay.
3, 4 years from now, then we're going to be seeing the impact of the big, beautiful bill. So to answer your question, there's going to be ongoing changes every year as legislators, as CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the insurance carriers themselves try to dial in the balance between offering really great coverage that seniors can afford, but also the way our healthcare system is currently set up, how the people that are taking the risk and putting together the plans can still be profitable.
And that's why we're always pushing for a yearly review, because things are changing constantly.
They are. So from the healthcare side of it, things are always changing. And then that doesn't even touch the other side, right?
Yeah, I was going to.
They're changing.
Yes. And that was my next question was going to be like, can we talk about the plan changes specifically? What are some major changes that we've seen across plans that will impact people directly as well?
Yeah, so I'll talk about what I think are the 3 biggest changes that I've seen this year, and that people, as you know, because we're in AAP, right?
Yep.
Now we got our AAP colors on today. Let's go. It could be St. Patty's Day colors, right? But we've got our AAP colors on. But the 3 biggest changes, first is prescription drugs, the deductibles are going up.
Okay.
Right. So like it used to be 2 or 3 years ago, if you had a Medicare Advantage plan, you didn't have a deductible on your prescriptions.
Really?
It didn't exist because they were able to balance it with the medical costs and the drug costs. But with these changes, so now a lot of plans have a drug deductible. So like you can't just take for granted that you have the best plan with the changing landscape, because not all plans are created equal. So that's definitely the first big one. The other one is we are seeing some changes now to medical benefits.
Okay.
So what do I mean by that? I think people, as they're reviewing their coverage, copays to see the doctor are going to be more prevalent. But the big one that I think is a shift this year is how they're handling inpatient hospitalization for people on Medicare Advantage plans. Here locally in the Pittsburgh market, in the state of Pennsylvania, a lot of those copays went to per stay. And what I mean by that is if Alexie goes in the hospital and she's in there for 10 days and her plan has a per stay benefit, she just pays a copay for the whole time. And it could be $250 for the 10 days, which again, for the average consumer, they're like, well, that's fantastic. I mean, I would expect to pay a lot more than that if I'm going to go into the hospital.
Yes.
What we're seeing for 2026 is we're shifting away, not on all plans, but on a larger majority, which coincidentally, when I first started doing Medicare, a lot of the hospital stays were per day.
Okay.
We're shifting back to that a little bit now. So same illustration, Alexie goes into the hospital. She's in there for 10 days. I'm not trying to make you sick, by the way.
That's okay. I understand.
She goes into the hospital for 10 days. And if her hospitalization is $200 a day for days 1 to 5, instead of her paying $250, now she has to pay $1,000. Her last 5 days, there's not a copay, but there's going to be an increase in what you have to pay.
Do you see the price per day dropping, that it could even out, or is it predominantly it's going to be costing you more than that per visit?
Yeah, like so for 1 day, it's probably going to be cheaper under the per day system.
Yes, but if you're there longer.
But if you're there longer, it's definitely going to be more expensive in the per day system.
Which they tend to keep you there. So
the average hospital stay today is between 4 and 5 days.
Wow.
So
wow,
yeah.
That is wild. Yeah. And then was there, I believe you said that there was a third thing that we're seeing a lot as a major plan change.
Yeah, so premium increases across the board.
Okay.
I would say the place we're seeing the least amount of impact is in the Medicare Advantage plans.
Okay.
So the Medicare Advantage plans are maybe going from $15 or $20 up to maybe $30. So not massive impact there. The Medicare supplement plans, like the Plan Gs, the Plan Ns, the Plan S for the people that are listening today, they're seeing like anywhere from 10 to 20% increases on their premium, which again, let's just use 200 as a round figure. If somebody is paying $200 a month and they get a 15% increase, right, their premium just went up $30 a month, right? The place where we're seeing the biggest change in premium this year, though, is on the standalone prescription drug plans.
Okay.
Some of them have gone from maybe $12 to $60.
Wow.
So significant changes there, but there's still other plans in the market that are significantly more cost effective than that. So there's definitely options out there for them to not just accept the price increase. Let's face it, we've gone through a lot of inflation the last few years, right? And a lot of times when it comes, like I can't roll up to the gas station and it be $4.50 and say, no, I'm not paying that.
Yeah.
Right. Like I just if I want to drive, I have to accept it. I can go look for another gas station and I might save 3 cents.
Yeah.
Right. With your health plan, you don't have to just accept it. There are other options out there that could definitely be more cost effective.
It's just taking the time to look through those
and knowing
plans.
where to look.
Yes, exactly. But before we get into that, I also wanted to talk on, is there any changes in benefits that we're seeing with plans?
Yeah, so we did just talk about a few of them in the last one, and I'm glad that you re-asked that, because the last big one is we're seeing a reduction in what we call the ancillary benefits or the extras. And this is mostly in the Medicare Advantage plans because they're able to provide extras.
Okay.
So we're talking dental, vision, hearing, over-the-counter products where you get an allowance on a monthly or a quarterly basis to purchase your prescriptions, or not prescriptions, your vitamins, cough syrups, things of that nature, stuff that you would buy for your health over the counter, right? So all of these are kind of taking a step back. So like if you look at your plan and you're like, well, my over-the-counter last year was $100 and now it's $50. Well, that's not uncommon for what's happening right now. Now, there's still some other plans out there with greater benefits in that area, right? But across the board, we're seeing that reduction. When it comes to dental, there's 2 types of dental. There's the preventative. So that's the cleanings, the x-rays, right?
Okay.
Those are generally covered at very little cost. Then there's the comprehensive, right? Your fillings, your root
canals, yep.
Your crowns, things of that nature, right? The allowance that people are getting for that coverage is being reduced on a lot of plans. So if they, and again, I'm not speaking to one plan specifically here. I'm just speaking in general. Their plan might have had $2,500 allowance, which is a really good allowance when you think about it. That may have been reduced to $1,500.
Okay.
Right. So they're not getting as much of those extra generous benefits, essentially.
So a lot to review this year, essentially.
Yeah. And again, it is pretty significant. This is the biggest year of disruption that I've seen.
I was just going to ask you if this is the biggest one you've seen.
This is the biggest one I've seen.
Why?
I've heard back in the day there was another time when it was pretty significant like this, but this is the biggest one. And I just think people need to realize, like, because again, we're so polarized and we're so over the top sometimes now and how we view things in our country.
Yeah, dramatize things sometimes.
Yeah, like this is the end, like we're going off of a cliff.
Yes.
And that's not what's happening here. I think the best word that I found to describe what's happening right now is a reset. And let me explain that really quickly, because the premiums rising and the benefits and the co-pays becoming a little bit more and the ancillary benefits being drawn back, it's actually, the plans are going to look, they're going to look a lot like they did 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
They're not going to look like they did 7 or 8 years ago, where like one company's plan that was very popular back in the day was $130 a month. Well, that plan's still going to be around $30 this month. So we're not going way back, but we're resetting 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Okay. And I know we just went through a lot of the changes and it can be overwhelming to a lot of people that are listening. I know our big push is always to schedule a meeting with us for free so that we can review your current plan, what you're looking for in the future, and the plan changes that could be impacting you. If we're pushing someone to do that, can you walk through what it actually looks like to have an appointment with us? I know sometimes it can be overwhelming to just come in and give someone all your personal health information. What does it look like to actually set up a meeting with us and go through that step by step?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So a couple things that I think is important to kind of mention. First thing is 1 in 3 people generally change their coverage in Medicare from year to year. So it's a third of the population.
Yeah.
One of the biggest hesitancies of people not looking at their plan is feeling that they're going to get taken advantage of. There's been a lot of studies out there that they're like, well, I don't want to be sold. I don't want to be taken advantage of. The way that we run our appointment is, they'll either reach out, generally they reach out to us, right? Either because they saw us on the radio or TV or a billboard, or they were referred to us, which is a big one. We get a ton of referrals, right? Like, so, but they'll reach out to us. We'll schedule a time. It can be in person at their house, at our office. It could be at a neutral location like a Panera. Like we're pretty flexible with all that. For some people today, they love Zoom or Teams or whatever, or over the phone. We do have a fully licensed call center. So we have all of those options available. And then it's about an hour. Right.
Okay.
And in that hour, what we're going to do is we're going to, first of all, do a needs analysis. What's important to you with your healthcare? What's changed for you in your healthcare, your prescriptions in the last 12 months? What needs do you have now that you may not have had last year when you chose to look at your coverage, right? And then how have the plans changed, which we talked a lot about today, right? So,
Yes.
So then we'll run their prescriptions. Then we'll look at their physicians, because we want to make sure that their doctors are in network and accepted. And then we look at plan benefits. So the way I like to always explain it, because I just think it makes sense to my brain anyway, is I look at this as a funnel. If there's 70 plans to choose from, and then we put in their prescriptions, that's usually going to eliminate probably 50 of those plans, right? Usually a lot of the different carriers, just because they cover their prescriptions at different costs, right? Then we'll start looking at their physicians, right? Do all the doctors they see, are they accepted by the plan? That's then going to eliminate some more people, where we finally get down to anywhere, it could be 1 to 5, but then because we understand the industry and everything, we'll say, based on everything that you've told us, these are the plans that we think are most effective for you. We review the benefits of those plans, and then they make a decision if they want to stick with what they have or if they want to change to something else.
And for individuals that do set up these appointments, what would you recommend that they bring, or how is it best for them to prepare?
Perfect. Yeah. So always helpful if they have a list of their prescriptions, right?
Yep.
It's funny because back in the day, I'd have people come out with big old buckets of prescriptions.
Oh, they bring the pills with them.
They would bring their bottles and whatever their carrier was for medications, right? So it was like show and tell at the medical office kind of a deal. But prescriptions, then a list of their doctors. If they have those things gathered ahead of time, it really does help keep things moving and paced for them, because once you get so inundated, we found that anything over an hour is a little bit overwhelming for people.
Yeah.
But yeah, physicians, prescriptions, anything that's really important to them. And then within that 60 minutes, we can get them in a great spot.
And I know we touched on all the plan changes and, kind of why a lot of people are hesitant to make an appointment is because they don't want to be sold to. Why would you recommend setting up an appointment with us compared to someone maybe doing research themselves, or they think that they can find information online, or maybe they're even being overwhelmed with other mailers and emails and calls? Why should they sit down with us, and what can we really provide that sets us apart?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is, after working with thousands of people, generally the ones that make the biggest mistakes are the ones that try to do it themselves. And again, it's not a knock on them. A lot of them are intelligent people. They do their research. But there's just so many nuances. Yes. Honestly, there's so many different things to consider. So like the first thing I would say is, this is what we live, eat, breathe, sleep, probably sometimes more than I want to, right?
Yes, yes.
But I love it, right? Like, because I see that the service that we're providing to people, like, we're taking something that they're literally confused on and making it so simple that they can have confidence in a choice. And I love that personally, right? So the first thing I would say is I wouldn't do it on your own, right? And then look for a group of people that are really plugged into the industry. Mm-hmm. Like this podcast today, we're not saying call us, right? Like we're not outbound dialing a phone into oblivion trying to get people on the phone. We're here to educate and help people.
Yes.
And I think that's what you want to look for, is you want to look for an organization that is highly respected, that has good people in it, that want to help people, that are saying, here's your options, you decide. And that's what we do.
Yes, that's great. I know you touched on this a little bit, but just to remind everyone, what are ways that people can set up an appointment with us?
Sure. So I would say the two easiest ways is to call our main line. Usually you're always going to get somebody. Mm-hmm. There is a rare chance that there's not a live, but we're pretty good about that. Again, we understand our consumer. We want them to be able to talk to a live human being right out of the gate. So 888-818-6334. Or you can go to our website, MediConnectInsurance.com. There is a chat feature there where they can ask questions. There's a place where they can schedule their own appointment and choose the type of appointment they would like. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely open to helping everyone that we can this enrollment season.
I can't believe it's already upon us.
I know. It kind of seems like Christmas, that it comes way before you expect it to. And before we close the episode, and I think we might run a couple minutes over today, I do want to go back to one thing, which is the SAR. Yeah. I think we really did a good job of talking about what it is and why it's happening. But let's talk about what should people do, right? Because they're like, for a lot of people, they may have called the carrier initially directly.
Yes.
Well, it's their carrier that's saying, we're not going to have a plan for you.
Yeah, we're going out.
So they're like, well, can I call my carrier? Or, how long do I have to do this? Like, what's the protocol for them? So obviously I have the annual enrollment period. I do recommend that they do it during this time because their coverage on these plans that are being terminated ends on December 31st. So if they make a decision during this time, we get the enrollment filled out for them, they will have no lapse in coverage. Think that's huge, right? Now, I will say in a scenario like this, they technically do have a SEP as well. Okay. Which is a special enrollment period. So yeah, I know that special enrollment period allows them 63 days after the enrollment period ends, or they lose their coverage in this scenario to actually pick a plan. So let's say someone's listening today and they're losing their coverage on December 31st. They actually have until the end of February to get new coverage, right? But what are they going to do for the month of January and the month of February? They're going to go back to original Medicare, which means they're going to be liable for the copays and everything that are associated with original Medicare. And there's just a lot of risk there.
It's not a time to procrastinate, even with that, extra period at the end.
You hit the nail on the head, right? Like you want to get it taken care of so there's no lapse, and so that you don't, if you have a health emergency in the new year, you don't end up having to have limited coverage during that time.
Yeah. A lot to cover.
It is a lot to cover, and there's a lot going on this enrollment period. We're available. We love our relationship with Andocia and the team that they have, and helping us to really simplify how people are receiving this information. So appreciate you joining us today.
Of course.
And we'll be back again soon, and probably as we get into the OEP, which is another one of those alphabet soups.
Let's stick with AEP for now.
Yeah, let's handle one AEP or OEP or SEP or IEP at a time. So thanks for joining us for this session of Medicare Made Simple with MediConnect. Again, I'm Lance O'Brien, Alexie Auth. We're glad that we've been able to get some great information for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us.